Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. It's the 16th of February, 2025, and today we'll be looking at the most important current events for UPSC aspirants.
That's right. So many important things happening every
We
day.
will dive deep into some really interesting topics. I'm sure some of this might sound familiar, and that's okay. Revision is good.
Yes,
But remember, we are going beyond the headlines.
exactly.
We're going to be extracting those valuable insights that will make you exam ready.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode.
Right, let's dive in.
Okay, first up, imagine you're a doctor.
Okay.
And you have a patient come in, and it looks like they have an abdominal mass.
Right.
But then you find out, oh, it's not just a mass, it's their twin.
Wow.
This sounds like something out of science fiction, doesn't it?
It does.
But it's a rare condition called foetus in foetu. And there was actually a case of this recently at the Bultana District Women's Hospital in Maharashtra.
Oh, wow.
This case really brings to light how complex human development can be.
Absolutely. So foetus in foetu happens when a malformed fetus actually develops inside its twin during pregnancy.
Inside.
Yes, inside the other twin. It occurs because of an uneven split of cells very early in the pregnancy.
Oh, I see.
And so one twin ends up being enveloped by the other. It's almost as though one twin becomes parasitic, drawing sustenance from the host twin.
So it's really a twin pregnancy that goes wrong, isn't it?
You could think of it that way, yes.
It's mind-boggling to think that someone could be carrying their twin inside them for years and not even know it.
I know, it's amazing.
But this also raises a huge ethical question.
Right.
What are the medical and even the moral considerations when you're dealing with a case like this?
Exactly.
What are the rights of each twin?
Yes.
These are the kind of questions that really make you think, especially for those of you aspiring to be doctors or policymakers.
Absolutely. It raises all sorts of challenging ethical and medical issues.
Okay, moving on to international relations. The U.S. and India have launched this huge initiative called the U.S.-India Compact Initiative.
That's right.
Definitely want to make a note of that for your exam.
For sure.
What's really interesting about this is that it's not just about defense.
Right.
Even though the name includes military partnership, this initiative is really looking to reshape U.S.-India relations
Absolutely.
and across a wide range of areas with some pretty ambitious goals.
That's right. Think of it as a major upgrade to the U.S.-India partnership. COMPIC-D stands for Catalyzing Opportunities for Military Partnership, Accelerated Commerce and Technology, and they want to double bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030.
Wow, that's huge.
It is.
So it's much more than just buying and selling goods between the two countries.
Exactly. This initiative will lead to things like increased defense procurements, more space collaboration between NASA and ISRO, new technology partnerships, and a big focus on critical minerals. This has the potential to really change India's place on the world stage, maybe even leading to trade deals with other nations that prioritize the U.S. over India's traditional partners.
So this brings up an important question. Will this lead to greater economic independence for India? Or will it make India too reliant on the U.S.?
That's a key question.
How will this affect India's relationships with other countries, especially in the Indo-Pacific region where India plays a crucial role in balancing China influence? These are some long-term implications that are worth thinking about.
Absolutely. These potential geopolitical shifts are important to analyze.
Now, for something a little more tech-focused, AI chatbots. Everyone's been talking about them. They're pretty amazing, right?
They are.
But like with all new technologies, there could be a downside. We need to be aware of this darker side, especially with the growing use of AI in everyday life.
I agree.
Have you heard of something called indirect prompt injection?
I have. It's a little scary.
It sounds pretty ominous, like something out of a spy film.
It does. So basically you have these very powerful AI chatbots like ChatGPT. They're designed to follow instructions. And these chatbots are powered by something called large language models, or LLMs, which have been trained on huge amounts of data.
I see.
That's how they can understand and respond to human language. But the problem is that attackers can embed harmful instructions in seemingly innocent content, like a document or an email.
Oh, wow.
And when the AI chatbot processes this content, it might end up following those hidden instructions without realizing it.
So it's almost like planting a hidden message that only the AI can see and act on.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
What are the consequences of this vulnerability? especially when it comes to something as critical as data security.
It's a major concern. Think about the potential for privacy breaches, the spread of misinformation, even financial fraud.
It's scary.
It is. As we rely more and more on AI, making sure it's secure becomes absolutely critical. We need to implement strong cybersecurity measures and continue research to stay ahead of these evolving threats.
It's like an ongoing arms race, right?
Yes. As technology gets more advanced, so do the methods used by those who want to take advantage of it.
Let's switch gears now and talk about the power of nature. Imagine a remote island in the southern Indian Ocean, thousands of kilometers from any major landmass. Amsterdam Island.
Okay.
You've probably never heard of it. But recently it's been making headlines because, for weeks now, it's been on fire.
Oh my gosh.
It's a stark reminder of the far-reaching effects of climate change. Even the most remote parts of our planet are vulnerable.
You're right.
Amsterdam Island is a French territory, a volcanic island with unique ecosystems.
Yes.
It's home to the rare Amsterdam albatross, and it's the only French sub-Antarctic island with native trees.
That's right.
So this fire isn't just about a burning island, it's a threat to biodiversity and a vital research station that's located there. It really reminds us how interconnected our world is. Events in one remote location can affect ecosystems and scientific communities around the globe.
Exactly. This really emphasizes how important global cooperation is when it comes to tackling climate change and protecting biodiversity.
Now let's shift focus back to India, to an issue that's been in the news for a while now. The AGR dispute. This could be a bit complicated, so let's break it down.
Okay.
Imagine you're running a telecom company.
All right.
You pay a fee to the government to use their infrastructure. The AGR dispute is basically about what is counted as revenue when calculating this fee. Should it just include income directly from telecom services, or should it also include other revenue, such as interest earned on deposits?
That's right. It's about what exactly constitutes adjusted gross revenue, or AGR.
And the Supreme Court just rejected petitions from Vodafone Idea and Airtel related to this issue. So what does this mean for the telecom industry? And why should this matter to you as a UPSC aspirant?
Well, in 2019, the Supreme Court ruled that pretty much all revenue should be included in AGR, except for very specific things like termination fees and roaming charges.
Okay.
This ruling has put a lot of financial pressure on telecom companies.
So this is more than just a legal battle. It has real economic consequences.
Yes, definitely. And for those of you preparing for the UPSC exam, this case highlights the importance of understanding India's legal frameworks and the challenges of regulation. It also shows how these things can have a big impact on the business environment in India. It even raises questions about the government's approach to the telecom sector and whether this approach is sustainable in the long run.
So it's really about understanding that economic growth, regulatory clarity, and legal decisions are all interconnected. And grasping these complexities is essential for anyone who wants to be a policymaker.
Exactly. You need to be able to connect the dots and understand the broader implications of these types of events.
Okay, that's it for part 1 of our deep dive. We've got a lot more to cover, from rhino relocation in Assam to breakthroughs in Alzheimer's research, so stay tuned for part 2.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're continuing our look at current affairs that are relevant to the UPSC exam.
You know, it's amazing how we can go from discussing legal battles over telecoms to celebrating rhinos returning to a wildlife sanctuary. Talk about a variety of topics. But I guess that's what's so great about current affairs. There's always something new and interesting happening. So let's head over to Assam, where there's some really good news for those who love wildlife. For the first time in 40 years, one-horned rhinos have been seen in the Laokhowa Wildlife Sanctuary.
Yeah, it's really a testament to how powerful conservation efforts can be.
This is great news.
The Laokhowa Wildlife Sanctuary is located on the southern bed of the Brahmaputra River in Assam's Naganon district, and it's a real biodiversity hotspot. It's connected to the famous Kaziranga Tiger Reserve, which creates a vital corridor for wildlife to move around.
So it's like a highway for animals.
Exactly.
What else makes Laokhowa special, apart from the rhinos, of course? What other kinds of species can we find in this protected area?
Oh, Laokhowa is full of life. You can find tigers there, elephants, wild boars, hog deer. It's amazing. And the wetlands there are so important that they're attracting even more water birds than Deepor Beale.
Really?
Which is Assam's only Ramsar site.
I see. Now, this success story in Laokhowa connects with several important themes for those of you preparing for the UPSC exam. We're talking about conservation efforts, the balance between human activities and wildlife, and the role of protected areas. This is a real-world example of how we can protect endangered species and preserve India's incredible natural heritage.
Absolutely. And it also raises some interesting questions about things like managing conflict between humans and wildlife.
Right.
Ensuring sustainable development, and figuring out which conservation strategies actually work. These are all really important aspects of environmental governance in India.
It's like a living laboratory for understanding how conservation works in practice. Speaking of laboratories and scientific breakthroughs, let's talk about something that's important to people all over the world: Alzheimer's disease. It seems scientists may have made a big step forward in understanding what causes this terrible condition.
Yes, some very interesting new research.
Tell me about it.
It focuses on these things called stress granules. Basically, they're tiny clumps of protein that build up in brain cells. You can almost think of them like clutter.
Okay?
So when a cell gets stressed, it makes these clumps of protein to try to protect itself. But in Alzheimer's disease, these stress granules might actually be a major reason why people experience memory loss and cognitive decline.
So instead of protecting the brain, they could actually be making the problem worse.
That's what the research suggests.
That's fascinating. But for those of us who aren't brain scientists, do you explain what Alzheimer's is and why this research is so important?
Sure. Alzheimer's is a neurodegenerative disease.
Okay,
This means it causes the brain to deteriorate over time.
I see.
It mainly affects memory and cognitive function, meaning it gradually makes it harder for people to think, remember things, and even do simple everyday tasks.
It's a heartbreaking condition.
It is.
And there's no cure yet, only treatments to manage the symptoms. That's what makes this new research so potentially groundbreaking. If we can figure out how to target these stress granules, it might be possible to slow down or even stop the progression of Alzheimer's disease.
Exactly. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities for research and drug development, which could give hope to millions of people affected by this disease.
It's amazing how scientific discoveries can transform healthcare and offer new ways to treat and prevent diseases. But let's move from the tiny world of brain cells to something a little more grand: India's Matsya 6000 project.
Now, that's something that really captures the imagination.
Imagine this. By 2026, India will have its very first manned submersible
Wow.
that can go down to a depth of 6,000 meters. That's deeper than most submarines can go.
It really shows how much progress India is making in deep-sea exploration and research. Matsya 6000 will be a real game changer when it comes to studying underwater ecosystems, exploring for resources like minerals, and learning more about how our planet works.
It's like opening up a whole new world. Can you tell us a little bit more about the technology behind Matsya 6000?
Sure, it's designed to carry 3 people and can operate continuously at that incredible depth for up to 12 hours. It has robotic arms for collecting samples, high-resolution cameras to capture images, and all sorts of other advanced sensors and tools.
It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
And here's the really cool part. The sphere that holds the crew is made from a special titanium alloy.
Oh, wow.
And this alloy was developed in collaboration with ISRO, India's space agency.
So we're talking about space-age technology being used for deep-sea exploration.
Exactly. Matsya 6000 is part of India's larger Samudrayan mission, which is all about exploring the deep ocean.
That's incredible.
And it also ties into India's blue economy policy, which focuses on using ocean resources in a sustainable way to boost economic growth.
It's about pushing the boundaries of science, exploring new frontiers, and ensuring a sustainable future for India. It's a bold vision for a country with such a rich maritime history. Now let's go from the depths of the ocean to the depths of the Western Ghats, where a recent event has sparked a debate about conservation in protected areas.
Yes, a leopard was recently killed in the Hadra Tiger Reserve.
I heard about that.
And this has raised questions about how effective our current conservation measures are,
I see.
and about the challenges of managing human-wildlife conflict in these delicate ecosystems.
The Padra Tiger Reserve is located in the Western Ghats of Karnataka. It's an amazing place for biodiversity. It's not just about tigers, though. It's also a Project Elephant Reserve.
Right.
It's home to a huge range of plants and animals.
It is.
Everything from leopards and elephants to guards, sandbars, and even the rare goldhole. This incident brings up some important questions for those of you studying for the UPSC exam. How are protected areas managed? What challenges do they face when trying to balance conservation with the needs of the local people?
Right.
How can we deal with human-wildlife conflict effectively?
These are tough questions.
They are. They're all complex issues that require a deep understanding of environmental policies, conservation strategies, and the socio-economic dynamics of these regions.
Exactly.
It reminds us that conservation isn't just about drawing lines on a map. It's about understanding the connections between ecosystems, human activities, and the long-term health of these precious natural resources.
Absolutely. It requires a multifaceted approach. We need to combine scientific expertise with community involvement and effective policy implementation.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've talked about the successes of conservation, the complexities of disease research, the excitement of in-deep-sea exploration, and the challenges of protecting our natural heritage.
It shows just how diverse and dynamic current affairs are. and every event offers valuable insights for those who aspire to serve in India's civil services.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into today's top current affairs.
We've gone from remote islands to the deepest parts of the ocean, but we have a few more thought-provoking issues to discuss.
Let's really test those analytical skills, shall we? Remember, for the UPSC exam, it's all about connecting the dots and seeing the bigger picture.
Absolutely. Speaking of connections, let's go back to the U.S.-India Compactee Initiative. We talked about how it might affect India's foreign policy and economy, but there's another angle to think about: its impact on technology in India.
So it's not just about trade and defense. We're talking about sharing knowledge and technological advancements. Tell me more.
The Compact Initiative has provisions for increasing collaboration in some really advanced fields like artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum computing, biotechnology, even space exploration. This could mean big things for Indian companies and research institutions.
So they could partner with American companies?
Exactly, they could access cutting-edge technologies
Wow.
and contribute to global innovation.
This brings up some really interesting questions for those of you preparing for the UPSC exam. How will this affect India's growth as a tech hub? Could it create new jobs? What about technology transfer and developing our own innovations? These are all things to consider.
You're right. It's not just about using technologies from other countries. It's about taking advantage of these partnerships to build up our own capabilities here in India. We need to foster research and development.
Become a leader in key tech areas.
Exactly.
So it's about being a key player in the global tech arena, not just watching from the sidelines. And that's a message that's important for everyone, not just those taking the UPSC exam.
I agree. It's about having the knowledge and skills you need to succeed in a world that's becoming more complex and interconnected every day.
Well said. Now, let's talk about a global issue that affects every country: corruption. The 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index is out, and it gives us a good idea of the state of governance and transparency around the world.
The Corruption Perceptions Index, or CPI, is published every year by Transparency International.
Right?
It ranks countries based on how corrupt people think their public sector is. They use a scale of 0 to 100.
I see.
0 means highly corrupt. 100 means very clean.
Okay, so where does India stand on this global ranking?
India is ranked 96th out of 180 countries,
Oh,
with a score of 38.
that's not a very good score, is it?
No, it isn't.
And I've heard that India's score has been going down in recent years. Why is corruption such a persistent problem, and what does it mean for a developing country like India?
Corruption is a major obstacle to economic growth and development. It makes people lose trust in institutions, holds back social progress, and can even lead to human rights violations. We need a multifaceted approach to tackle corruption.
So things like strengthening institutions, promoting transparency and accountability.
Yes. Empowering citizens and creating a culture of integrity. It's not just the government's responsibility. Everyone needs to be involved.
It's a collective effort.
Exactly. And for those preparing for the UPSC exam, understanding the complexities of corruption, the different forms it takes, and the strategies for fighting it is really important for answering questions about governance.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into today's most important current affairs.
To all the UPSC aspirants out there, remember, stay curious, keep asking questions, and always connect the dots. The world is your classroom, and every current event is a chance to learn and grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey of knowledge and discovery. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow UPSC enthusiasts. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.